you doing? Dave McRae here. Sunday, April the 5th, 2020, 2:14 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope you guys are doing well, doing safe. It's a Sunday Q&A, AMA, whatever you want to call it. I like to call them AMAs, even though I have Q&A in the thumbnail. I have AMA below me, AMA, and whatever. It's essentially the same thing. Q&A, of course, question and answer. AMA, ask me anything. So yeah, we are, it's Sunday today, and I thought, why not talk some Halloween? What a shot. Dave, talk Halloween. Let's talk Halloween. Let's do that. I noticed today that, I think it was yesterday that the Candyman trailer, the Candyman movie has been moved, and we thought that may happen. I was talking about that just on McRae. I think it happened the day I was talking that I was doing my Friday show. I think it happened that day. I think maybe not. Maybe the day before. Maybe yesterday. Anyway, yes, it has officially moved. It's moved from its date in June, at the beginning of June. Candyman has moved to, drum roll. Candyman has moved to September 25th. September 25th is when Candyman will, well, at least at the moment, when Candyman is scheduled to hit theaters. A Quiet Place Part 2 is scheduled to hit theaters on September the 3rd. And The Purge 5. I didn't even know there was a Purge 5 coming. I finally watched the very first Purge like a year ago. I know, I'm a little late to the party with the Purge movies, but I finally watched the first Purge about a year or so ago. And I was like, it was fine, you know. I mean, you live vicariously through the concept, because we all, let's face it, folks. Let's be honest here. Maybe not kill. We've all said things like, I'm so mad I could just kill that son of a bitch. We've all said things like that. We don't necessarily mean literally, right? It's just a figure of speech. But I have no doubt, I know in my life, and I'm sure in your life as well, that there are people that you would love to kick the ever-loving shit out of. You just love to... Look, there are some people in this world that just have punchable faces. Maybe some of you think I have a punchable face and you want to punch me in the face. And that's entirely possible. I have no doubt there are some people that would love to punch me in the face, and I would equally like to punch you in your face and slap you around and throw you through, a plate glass window or something. I don't know. So, what watching a movie like The Purge, to me, is very much like, you live vicariously through, fucking son of a, yeah, come on, you fucking, you know what I mean? But I have 5 movies of this shit. I 5? God, I didn't even know there were 4. I thought there was 3. No, there's 4. Soon to be 5. So anyway, The Purge 5 coming out on, what is it again? What did I say? Coming out on July 10th. July 10th. So, of course, speculation, and we will get to your Q&A, your questions here in just a second. We're going to talk Halloween today, anything Halloween. We can talk about anything, but I want, I like the focus to be Halloween for today's AMA anyway. I am aware that Blumhouse said... Blumhouse. Well, kind of, I guess, from a certain point of view. Jason Blum is the Blum in Blumhouse. But he said that, soon, the trailer's coming soon, right? And I've touched on this in the last couple of shows. Soon. And people have reached out to me and said, soon, it's going to be next week. It's going to be next month. Soon is, look, there's several ways to interpret his comment. Number one is you take it literally, and he means literally soon. But then you have to even go deeper and go, well, what does soon mean? Soon could be next week for some. It could be 2 months now, from now for some. The movie is coming in October, potentially. That's the goal right now, right? So if that does still happen and the movie does come in October, whether the trailer comes out next week or, 6 weeks from now, that's still soon, depending. It's still coming soon, right? So I tend to look at this because I see this all the time. I take comments like that with a grain of salt. He's not going to say, well, eventually, maybe. He's going to say soon because it's a safe thing to say, and whether it comes out 3 weeks from now or 2 months from now, he's technically not wrong. Either way, he's not wrong. So it's a very safe thing to say. I don't think it really gives us any insight either way of how soon is soon, if you know what I mean. You know, it's not like he said, very soon, watch out for it any minute now. I mean, it's not like he said that. He just said soon, right? Well, soon could be June. Soon could be my birthday, May 24th. Soon could be Easter. So it's like that thing you just say, and it kind of covers all your bases for the next, you know, like 6 to 8 weeks, maybe even, 3 months. That's how I see it. And I think it's just, because I'm pretty sure, and I stand to be corrected on this, but I'm pretty sure Ryan Turek said something similar like 4 weeks ago or something. He said something like, it's coming soon. Something like that. I thought it was about the trailer. Maybe I'm wrong. There was something in there. He says a lot of shit like that too online, when he's interacting with fans. I think he said something like that. And then people, I think, and again, I stand to be corrected here, because the days are starting to bleed into each other here with everything that's going on in the world. I think, and then that sort of, because we had The Hunt coming out on the 13th of March, people started, soon, 13th March, and of course it didn't happen. So I just think that we got to keep that in mind. I always thought that if the world had not gone to shit and that things were rolling out like they're supposed to, that Candyman was a safe bet, that you would see the Halloween Kills trailer play in front of Candyman. Now, Candyman's not a Blumhouse film, but it's a Universal distributed film, and Universal is the Halloween distributor. So that makes sense to me. Okay. Now, obviously, things have changed. Candyman's been moved from the beginning of June to the 25th of September. Does that mean that the Halloween trailer will not drop at the end of May, beginning of June, or maybe even sooner? No, but you have to keep in mind that this is a real wait and see scenario. We're not going to know if Halloween Kills. I mean, right now, Halloween Kills is okay because it's October, and we have summer movies being moved to in and around that time. So Kills is okay. But if we get into July and we're still in kind of the same situation, then you're going to start to see those September, October movies being pushed. Like right now, we're in April, we're seeing the June, July films being pushed. We get into June and July, we're going to start seeing September, October films being rearranged again. If we're in the exact same position or worse, or maybe a little bit better, but if it's pretty marginal, the improvement, we might see that. It's also important to know that, again, as I've said 1,000 times, marketing is not an arbitrary thing. They don't just pick dates. They pay attention to, the demographic. They pay attention to counter programming. They pay attention to what the other studios are doing when they're dropped. I mean, it's a whole process. I mean, there's a whole marketing department. It's a multi-million-dollar venture to market these multi-million-dollar films. So, there's also, a marketing campaign in the sense of the strategy, but there's also the months they have. Like, generally speaking, they like to ramp up the marketing in the, 8 to 12 weeks prior to the movie being released. Well, if we are, not sure, we're certain at the moment, because Kills is far enough away, that the movie's going to come out, then you could start marketing this thing in the summer, and that's probably, that makes sense, because that's what they did, like, with 18. But we don't even know if that's going to happen. I mean, they're not going to have a release date of October 16th and then kind of wait, and then just start to market the movie at the end of September. He's just not going to do that. You need a few months window there where you start to ramp up your marketing campaign. So, I mean, I really believe that if we were friends with Blum, if you knew him personally and you were talking to him on a personal level, he would probably say to you, yeah, we don't know. That's our goal. Our goal is to release the trailer here, but we're holding it. I mean, the trailer may even be cut. I mean, he said, it's looking good. We're tweaking it. Looking good, but it might be in the bag already. I don't know which trailer house they outsource to. Generally speaking, depending on the size of the production, it all depends, right? It's not an exact, I mean, it does depend. There are a lot of variables at play, but, generally studios will, send out their, the footage to be cut into trailers to several to several trailer houses that compete, against each other, for their trailer to be the one that is released. Again, it depends on the size of the production. I don't know who they sent it out to, but it may be already in the bag and they're just waiting. He says that, right? Because that's what you say. I call it the political cinematic rhetoric, and there's lots of that, that goes on when you're dealing at that level. I mean, these are multi-million-dollar films, so they're not going to say anything. They speak very much like politicians, so they will speak in, unless there's something specific. Again, it's use your brain here, right? But there's a lot of generalities that are tossed out there. They speak in general sort of statements because that way they can be right and they can be wrong all at the same time. And if they're wrong, they have the wiggle room to adjust and say, well, I didn't say, well, I mean, I know I said that, but what, so, saying like, oh, we're tweaking it, this, well, maybe they are, maybe they aren't, I mean, who knows? So, I think Candyman moving does change things. Now, we know that The Purge 5 is coming out July, what was it? Purge 5 coming out July 10th. That's a Universal distributed film. Maybe that might be a film that if you could then release the Halloween Kills trailer against or with that film, I could see that. Will the Halloween Kills trailer still be released online at the end of May, beginning of June, like they did the 2018 film? Possibly. But I really believe it's a wait and see. Like, I think that might be the goal, but that could change on a moment's notice. Like, that is how quickly things are changing, how quickly things have changed in the entertainment industry because of COVID-19. They're making decisions. I mean, now they're sort of playing the long game here, but really it is a day-by-day thing. And you could want to release that thing online, which they could do on the, Universal YouTube channel, no problem. Maybe the goal is to do that at the end of May, but if your movies are being pushed, you're not going to start marketing your movies that far. If Halloween Kills gets pushed to October 2021 and Ends gets pushed to October 2022, you ain't going to see that trailer, in June. I mean, it just doesn't. It doesn't make any sense. We all hope that doesn't happen, but I would be shocked if they did. So it really does depend on what the landscape is like come May. Especially this month. I don't think we're going to see the trailer this month at all. And again, maybe we will. I mean, maybe we're like, holy shit, there it is. That will surprise me. But if I was a betting man, I would bet that we won't see it in April. May, possibly, and that might have been the goal all along. I think April is that month that you really see what's going to happen in the world of COVID-19. How many more people are going to die? How is it going to affect the entertainment industry? Because at the end of April, then we're really going to get are we on the upswing? That doesn't mean we're out of the woods, but have we made that turn? Have we turned left instead of right, or right instead of left, or up instead of down? At the end of April, we're really going to see that because we'll have a good month or 6 weeks of stats to be able to show where we are and potentially the trajectory of where we're going. And that's really going to be a huge factor. And even if we've made that turn, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're out of the woods in May. I mean, it could take May and then June to really get out of the woods. I mean, it's like driving, say you drive from California and you're heading towards New York, and then you get all the way to Pittsburgh and you're like, oh my fuck. And then, so you turn around and you start heading back to California, but it's still going to take you, a week to get back there. So, I mean, we might see that turn at the end of April, but we might not be out of the woods till July or August. So it's a really tricky thing. I think that it's hard to know what they're going to do, but I don't think you're going to see the trailer in April. I think soon is a general statement because it covers a lot of things, soon can be April, soon can be June, you know what I mean? And it leaves them in control of the statements. It leaves them in control of the information that they put out. And that's what you want to be. You always, when you're working at that level, you always want to be ahead of the information. So you put things out there, you leave the hype there. Soon is a great thing to say because, like I said, it can mean many different things and it keeps the hype and anticipation out there, which is what they want. And, but I wouldn't don't read too much into soon, as in it's like tomorrow or next week, because these things are not arbitrarily dropped. You know, they just don't do that. They just go, well, you know what? April 5th seems like a good time. You know, they're very strategically placed. There's reasons for that. But interesting stuff indeed. Candyman moved to September 25th. Not surprising. I mean, as soon as Top Gun was moved, even though it's not the same studio, as soon as Top Gun was moved, I was like, oh yeah. There's no way Candyman's going to stick to that release, and they didn't. Interesting stuff, man. Hey, super chat comes in from Nick Kunda. Thank you so much, Nick. Says, hey Dave, I had a question about you Halloween sequel idea. How would the audience know that Sandy looks like Judith? We never got clear look at her in the 1978 film. Great question, Nick. Well, what Nick is referring to, in case you guys don't know, is my Halloween 2018 sequel concept idea video. I know, it's a mouthful. It's on my channel. I think it's got about, 30,000 views or something like that. Maybe that's a little generous. I'm not sure. But it was me walking through my idea that I would do for a sequel to the 2018 film. Now, this was uploaded in July of last year, I think, maybe beginning of August. It was uploaded long before we even knew the titles of the new movies were Halloween Kills and Ends. So at the beginning of that video, I said any, similarities between my idea and the eventual Halloween Kills movie, of course I didn't say Halloween Kills, is purely coincidental, which it would be. But there are some things that have come out about Halloween Kills that sound very similar to what I was doing in mind. But that's not rocket science, because if you know the series, if you know the films, kind of there's only so many ways you can go. You throw it and, it's like 50-50, right? But anyway, so in that sequel concept idea, it's hard to get into in depth here, so I won't. But I have a character in the movie that resembles, she plays a pivotal role in the overall philosophical kind of ending to my film. And she resembles the look of Judith Myers. And that plays a very pivotal role in the direction of my film. A lot of symbolism there. And so Nick is asking, well, how would we know, she looks like Judith when we didn't get a good look at her? Well, let's not forget, again, one of the things that I specified in that sequel concept idea was this is a concept, right? And there's always room to flesh things out, right? This is the basic premise. This is the basic concept, but the finer nuances and details may still have to be fleshed out. So one of those things would be like, well, who's to say that Laurie, who naturally, as we know from the 2018 film, isn't, she's obsessed with everything. I mean, this has been her life's work, her goal in life. She's been convinced that Myers is coming back. Who's to say that we don't then, through the process of finding more about Laurie, that maybe she has some newspaper clippings, of Judith Myers' face, right? Maybe we see an old news report and there's her face on the screen or things like that. There would be something that we would have in that movie that would show the audience, not like, not on the nose, but show the audience that, hey, this is what Judith Myers looked like. And then you sort of make the connection later on, hopefully, and it might take you a couple of watches to do so. But that's what I mean by or that would be my idea to flesh that out. So I don't know. I mean, are you guys excited to see Candyman? I'm looking forward to seeing it. Candyman has never been I'm not a Candyman kind of guy, but certainly the trailer looks intriguing enough to go see it. And I was convinced that they were going to drop the Halloween, again, in a perfect world, they were going to drop the Halloween Kills trailer at the end of May, beginning of June, and that trailer was going to play in front of Candyman because Candyman is Universal released film. That's what I think they were going to do. I don't think they're going to do that anymore, obviously, because the movie's been pushed. So it's really interesting to see what they're going to do. I really think that the end of April, beginning of May is really going to be a huge factor here for a lot of things. So interesting stuff. Could we, I think it's, very interesting. Very, very interesting. I know it really is the trajectory. If we start to make that turn at the end of May, you might still see the Kills trailer at the end of May, at the end of April. You might still see the Kills trailer at the end of May, beginning of June. You might, if the prognosis is that we're going ahead with the 16th release date of October. It's interesting, but I would be, and I would be happy as well to see it, but I'd be very surprised if we see that thing in April. I wouldn't bet money on it, folks. Let's see here. What's going on? Hope you guys are doing safe. 211 people watching. Let's talk some Halloween. Let's see what's going on. Get those questions in. Send those nude photos, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just kidding. Relax. Don't do it. I don't want to throw up. Here we go. Dylan McMillan says, how you been, Dave? Doing pretty good. I'm glad I'm finally able to catch a stream for the first time in about a month. Cool. Well, I'm glad that you're able to hop on. It was Sunday afternoon. I had some time. Everybody's COVID-19ing and hunkering down. So why not talk some Halloween and see how you guys are doing? Ryan McHenry says, Dave, with movies getting pushed back along with other anticipated movies, do you think that means some movies will take a loss at the box office since movies are released to avoid competition? It's entirely possible. 100%. Now, the studios do their best to strategically pick release dates that will give them the best probability of success despite having to move from maybe the ideal release date for obvious reasons. And they definitely pay attention to what other studios are doing. 100%. It's one of the reasons why, and again, that doesn't mean that we won't live in this world eventually, but we don't live in this world right now where tentpole films like your gigantic blockbuster movies, films that cost hundreds of $millions to make, and maybe even a few hundred more in marketing, are not, we don't live in the world yet where you can just spend that kind of money and release it on VOD and expect to make all that money back and then some. We don't live in that world yet. If you make a movie that costs you, $2 million to make, $5 million to market, could you make it back on VOD? Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Because that's not, but like Star Wars, Marvel, DC, Black Widow and Top Gun and all these, they don't want to release those movies on VOD. Fast forward 15 years from now, maybe that's a common thing. And they've figured out the logistics of how to make the money in doing that. But in order to make that kind of money on VOD, you'd have to charge $100 a pop a ticket. I mean, and again, that's not exact numbers, folks. I'm just saying, like, it would be kind of like that, right? I mean, the reason why, The Hunt and The Invisible Man are $20 to rent is because of that. And even then, they're taking a loss because I can rent it for $20, but invite 15 of my friends over. Well, you can't do that in the movie theater. It's 15 times 15. You know what I mean? Or 15 times 10, whatever the cost of the ticket is. So, I mean, we have to keep that in mind. So yes, I definitely think that there is potentially a loss and maybe even a big loss, but they are doing everything they can to strategically place them in positions that still give them the best probability of success. I think the move from Top Gun to Christmas was a wise one. But then you look at what's coming out around Top Gun. You got West Side Story. You got, Coming to America 2. Now that's not going to be like a $1 billion movie, but I mean, you have that coming out. You have, there's a few others in there too, off the top of my head. You got Dune's coming out. I mean, that's like, all within like 5 or 6 days of each other or something like that. Like, it's really insane. That's probably not ideal, but they figure that, it might be the best release date for them after that, unless they push it. I mean, maybe they're like, well, we don't really want to push it to next year or next summer. And the best release date for Top Gun 2 would be Christmas. They look at all the figures, they look at the stats. I mean, this is all it's so fascinating. Like, people, I remember that Jason Blum was once asked, why are movie trailers, and he was more being asked about his, trailers. Why do you show so much? Why is there so much? And there were two things he said. He said, and he's absolutely right, because I read this years ago. We learned, I mean, not necessarily exactly like this because YouTube and social media didn't exist then. But I remember when I was in film school, we took, there was a part, like, there were a lot of electives, but a part of the course structure was we learned, the business of film, and a lot of things have changed because, again, this is going back to the late 90s and, I barely had an email address. But the principle of a lot of these things have changed. They've just evolved and overlap now into the sort of online social media world. But they pay attention. I mean, the reason why, and, you know, he said, well, we're competing with streaming. That's one. And we need to show some of the goods and some of the stuff to get to entice people to come to the theater. He's not wrong in that. And there have been focus groups that have been done. Believe it or not, there are statistics that show, it's just crazy to think, but there are stats that show that the more you show in a trailer, generally speaking, it doesn't mean everybody, but generally speaking, it gets a very positive response from the audience, and it gets people to go to the movies. Maybe not you, maybe not me, maybe not the average person, but generally speaking, there is evidence to show this. And so there's a lot of factors. It's not just we just arbitrarily just cut this and oops, I guess we're just showing too much because we don't know what the fuck we're doing. No, they're specifically designed to show these things because of demographic, because of a number of factors, you know, that go into showing things. And I find all this shit really fascinating. I love reading up on this stuff. I love the psychology and the sociology of it. You know, it's just really cool stuff. You know, I made the analogy, like there's a specific reason why that Snickers bar is at the cash checkout and not, you know, over there, or that, you know, it's at, you know, an end cap and not in the middle of the, because statistics show that more people buy that Snickers bar when it's there and not there. And they have the facts and the numbers to show it. And you feel gross when you read that, right? It's marketing. It's all marketing. And they understand the psychology and the human behavior of marketing, and they understand what people will do and what they won't do. And if you don't understand that and you learn about it, you feel almost used. You feel like, I feel gross. I feel like they're using me, because they are. Because they know what works and what doesn't, right? It's really cool stuff. But yeah, definitely, for sure, things are, I mean, it's a tricky thing, and there is the potential to lose money. I mean, there's no doubt that the Invisible Man has not an exorbitant amount of money, but certainly they have, having to go right to VOD, certainly they've lost some money, you know, for sure. Super chat comes in from Kavari Comanche. Am I saying that right? Comanche. Thank you for the super chat, buddy. Really appreciate it. Says, hey, Dave, do you think Anthony Hopkins could have pulled off Dr. Loomis post Donald Pleasance? That's a really good question, man. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, he certainly has the gravitas I wouldn't have mind seeing it. I would have been open to seeing it. Yeah, for sure. Maybe somebody needs to do a deep fake of that shit. But then again, of course, you'd still get Dr. Loomis's voice, but at least it would give you an idea of what he would look like. Somebody should deep fake that shit. I don't know how to deep fake. Anyway, Devon is awesome. Sends in a $1 super chat. Thank you so much, buddy. Really appreciate you supporting the channel on that level. Just going back to make sure I didn't miss any others. I did not. Good stuff. Yeah, great stuff. Tom Wittig says, what's up, Dave? This is such a great group here. Thanks so much for the afternoon stream. No problem, man. No problem. I wanted to jump on and just see how you guys are doing and talk some Halloween and answer some questions and give you some of my thoughts and insights into sort of what could be going on based on my brain. The Artisan, thank you very much, buddy, says, all H2O really needed to do was have a better, more consistent mask, and it being a direct sequel to Halloween and not Halloween 2, and it would be the best Halloween sequel to date, he asks. No, I disagree. I think you can, look, you can always change things about certain movies, right? Halloween H2O, and again, there's certain things I like about it, but I don't like the movie. It doesn't look like a Halloween movie, doesn't feel like a Halloween movie. It's very much a product of its time. It feels like Michael Myers walked onto the set of Dawson's Creek. I mean, that's just what it feels like. You know, and you know, it takes place in California. There's no fall vibe. There's no, you know, I mean, I like Laurie, but I mean, take Laurie out of it. Take Laurie Strode out of that movie. Now, I hate doing this because I'm the first to say, yeah, but she's in the movie, so you got to judge the movie. She's in the movie. I agree, but if you were to remove her, like, I mean, there's not a lot else going on. You know what I mean? Like, there's not like, you know, I don't think it's I don't like the movie very much. You know, I mean, it's a very campy sort of I mean, let's not forget, I think, and people can correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Kevin Williamson have something to... Didn't he help write the script or the screenplay or something? It's got the thing that Scream has, and it's not like, the thing that Scream has, the thing that Halloween H2O has, and it's not like Scream, okay? It's not full on sort of satirical, spoofy-ish like Scream. But it's got a lightness to it. It's got a overall sort of light kind of fluff to it at times, and I just don't like that. It's very sort of, it's not quite as self-aware as Scream, but it's self-aware-ish. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. It's not breaking any fourth walls, although we do see the car that, Jamie Lee Curtis's mom drove in Psycho. I mean, that's, I get it. But you don't have any moments like you did in Scream where Wes Craven is Fred the janitor at the school and he's wearing a Freddy Krueger hat and sweater. I mean, you don't get that kind of thing. But it's got a flavor to it that I just don't like. I just doesn't feel like Halloween to me. There's certain moments in the movie where I'm like, that's cool or that's nice, but overall, I'm not a big fan of that movie. So I think there would be more that would needed to be changed for me in order for it to feel like a really good sequel. But that's me. Let's see. Devon is awesome again. Sends a super chat. Thank you, buddy. Says, do you think Kills has the potential to top Tina's death from Elm Street 84 with a cool kill scene in terms of impact as well? That's a great question. Here's my thought on that. I'm going to say no. And the reason why I'm going to say no, and I could be wrong, obviously, but is because when you're dealing with Freddy Krueger, there is always an opportunity with Freddy because of the kind of antagonist he is, because of the world we're living in. Freddy will, and that doesn't mean that this happens. Maybe it should happen more than it actually does. But I think there's always a better opportunity for a death scene in an Elm Street film to be more cool and awesome because of the nature of the world for which they take place in. Michael is grounded in reality. So you will never have a body, rolling onto the ceiling and rolling onto the wall. You can't do that because it doesn't make any sense, right? You can't achieve that in a Halloween film and have it make sense. So most of Michael's kills are going to be very, you can get gruesome and you can have him impale people like on fences and walls and shit, which is cool, right? That's cool. But there's only, and you can have jaws to the side and see a head turn or what they did with which I didn't like what they did with the killing of Sartain in terms of, it was a very Friday the 13th. I mean, you would never smush somebody's face like that. It wouldn't, it felt very hokey to me, cheesy. When I saw that in the theater, when I was at the premiere, I remember thinking to myself, that's a little cheesy. Like it smushes like a bowl of spaghetti and meatballs. It was strange to me to see that. And so when it comes to Michael, I think, look, I've said this 1,000 times, Halloween Kills is going to be gorier. There's going to be more kills, and I think there's going to be more kills on screen. And I think it's going to be more intense and it's not going to end well for the protagonists, because I think the structure of these three films is very much like a trilogy, even though it's technically a quadrilogy. The second movie, I think, is going to act like your second act, which is generally always the darkest for our protagonists. So I think there's going to be a lot of shit is going to go down in this movie, naturally, with a title like Halloween Kills as well. But seeing a kill that could top Tina's death in Elm Street, I don't know what that would be. I mean, it would have to be sensational, but grounded enough that we buy that it's happening in this realistic world. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe he gets behind a car and he impales or he gets into a snowplow or something, and he impales somebody on the shovel of the plow, and he, lifts them up and he tosses them over but even just saying that, doesn't that feel a little sensational for Halloween? Do you know what I mean? Like even saying that, like, that seems like a Friday the 13th thing. You know what I mean? Like, so there's only so much you can do with Michael in this, revisited, grounded reality that I think could top Tina. Freddy's always easier because you can do anything and it makes sense because it's not real. It's not reality. It's dreams. You know what I mean? So thanks for the question though. But definitely I think we're going to get a lot of not sensational, but more intensity. Definitely. I think we're going to get more intensity for sure. Let's see. Going back, looking at the super chats. I always dash back for those, because 216 people watching, it's great. I always dash back to the other board because sometimes super chats come in that don't register in the chat room for some strange reason. But it looks like 1, 2 just came in. And that's cool. And they are showing in the chat room, which is great. Okay, Intel Wild, thank you so much, buddy. Says, Dave, with great power comes great responsibility. Very true. During this COVID-19 crisis, can we McRae's count on you to give us a guaranteed weekend AMA? Well, I'm going to say no. I can't guarantee it because of the other things that are going on. But I can guarantee that if I have time and if there's an opportunity, you will get it, like today. Shad Got Game sends in a super chat. Thank you so much, buddy. He got game. Shad got game. Do you think Michael Myers moves his face at all under his mask? Do you think he just has a blank, stoic expression all the time? I would say that, no, I think he moves his face. He's probably under there and he's probably, there's probably times where he thinks something's funny and you see, no, I'm just kidding. No, I think, again, I mean, when somebody is emotionless and expressionless, that's a general idea of what that is. So I think, when Dr. Loomis says he has this pale, blank, emotionless face and the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes, he's talking, generally, it's just who he is. He doesn't crack a smile. He doesn't laugh. But if you were to impale him with some sort of sharp object, would he wince? Would he go like this or something? Well, yeah, probably, because he's human. But does he make any funny expressions or weird expressions under his mask? Just generally, I doubt it. Because he's like, again, the design of the original character was he is a human being, but there's a sense of something else there. And that sense of something else there was not supposed to be knowable to keep the mystique intact. That's why he's so cool and fascinating, because it's the forever hunt for the truth. It's the forever hunt for the truth. And in many cases, the desire and the journey for the truth of something is much more exciting than the destination. And that's why if you never reveal what the destination is, people can live forever in the hunt for the truth, forever in speculation. And that works really well with the character of Michael Myers. And so it's fascinating. I would say that to your question, I think he's just stoic all the time because he's a force of nature, right? And again, we're talking about the original intent of the character, not Michael from Part 6 or Rob Zombie or Resurrection or, whatever, or 5. We're talking about the original intent, which is what these new sequels are based on. He's a guy, but there's something strange there. I actually think they humanized him maybe a little too much in the 18 film. I think there could have been a few more things they could have showed to still reveal that there's, that's kind of weird, but not too much, but just a little bit. But that's what I got to say about that. H.E. Pennypacker says, Sir Dave, I was out walking my hamster last night. I love it. And I ran into Kevin Bacon's boner and had a very deep conversation about Halloween. There's always room to walk your hamster out onto the streets and have deep conversations with Kevin Bacon's boner. I'm telling you right now, that's the way to go. You just gotta do it. Captain says, Dave, I bet Michael was laughing under the mask when he saw Julian run and cuss in 2018. Maybe. I don't know. Michael Myers fan 1001 says, you hear Michael wimp in 78 when Laurie stabs him. That's true too. Yeah, and you do hear to that point, you also hear when he's attacking, you hear the like you hear a bit of that, right? Like that out of breath sort of grunting, struggling. You hear that. So it's not that and of course, when the mask is removed and we see the damage to the eye and Tony Moran steps into the light as the unmasked Michael Myers, you do see kind of a like that kind of a look. Yeah, you know what I mean? You see that kind of a look on his face. So again, I mean, it's yeah. I mean, these questions are so funny. But nonetheless, they're what you think about. They're what you ponder. They're what you and I am here to provide possible answers to these life-changing. I mean, just the life deep questions of life. Right there. I love it. I love you guys. This is great. Let me see here. 1 second here. Let me just see I want to make sure that I am there. I am. Okay. What do we got here? Super chat comes in from FFM Forever, says, no Halloween question. Okay, cool. No problem. Do you think Indy 5 will still happen considering it's been delayed another year? I think they should leave well enough alone. This is a great question. And I'm just as disappointed, probably as much or more so than anybody. Harrison Ford is my favorite actor of all time. I mean, you've heard me say this. I mean, I remember when I was in kindergarten and first and second grade, going back to the early to mid 80s, and I had what I called my Han Solo pants. They weren't really Han Solo pants. They were just like dark blue pants with a red stripe down the side that I considered Han Solo pants. But you could probably also call them police officer pants or, I don't know, military pants or, whatever, right? We see those types of pants a lot. So it certainly wasn't exactly like Han Solo, but I used to wear them to school all the time. And I would play Star Wars and pretend I was Han Solo out on the playground, all that kind of jazz. And Harrison Ford's my favorite actor. And I know a lot about him. He was born July 13th, 1942, same year as my father. Not the same date, but same year as my father. Anyway. And Indiana Jones, one of the most iconic cinematic heroes of all time. But I mean, this has been it's getting silly now. And what I fear, and I feel I'm being pulled in two ways. What I fear is that he's going to be 80 years old. Well, he turns 80 the year the movie's supposed to be released. So he'll be 79 when he's shooting the movie. Is that too old to do an Indiana Jones movie? Well, yes and no. I mean, it depends on what is the structure of the movie. I mean, the problem is that the identity of the Indiana Jones character is that he is a swashbuckling, globe-trotting archaeologist. He's a guy in his 30s or 40s or 50s, whatever, who is getting into all sorts of shenanigans and scenarios and booby traps and, he's swinging from here or there. I mean, that's what he is. If it's not that, look, he's in great shape. It's only delayed, in terms of the production by another year, okay, but who knows what's going to happen to him. But the problem is that, Harrison Ford has never done stunts. He's always done physical acting. But as you get older, even the physical acting part starts to wane. It starts to go away because, you're 80. So, it's like, how much of him is going to be there? Is it just going to be him talking and figuring things out? And then when the action shit happens, you have somebody else, or it's just, it then kind of, is it going to be more of a spy thriller? So you don't have him doing much. It's more of his intellect than his brawn, if you know what I mean, which is cool, which could work. It could work as long as you write it as part of the narrative. It feels organic. It is 80-year-old, and he doesn't want it, and he comes out of, and it's more of a spy thriller, and maybe it's really good. Like, maybe you're like, fuck, that was really good. And of course there's some action, and maybe there's a few moments where, he punches a few guys, or he gets, and as long as it feels really organic, it might work. It might work. Where it's not going to work is if they try to sell us on an 80-year-old Indiana Jones doing Temple of Doom shit. That's when it's kind of like, I don't know about that. Do you know what I mean? And then, is it really Indiana Jones? So I'm of the mind of, it's kind of like, maybe it pains me. Oh, it pains me. It pains me. I want, but maybe it's time. Maybe it's time to say, and I'll be honest with you. I don't think if it was for the reception of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, I don't think we'd be having this conversation. If the last Indiana Jones movie was The Last Crusade in 1989, I think they are so desperate to make up for that movie, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, that I think it might be blinding them to really making the best choice, because a sequel to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull really should have been like 2012. It's kind of like, fuck, you know what I mean? I hear you, man. I hear you. Great question. Thank you so much for that. Let's see here. Another super chat comes in from Nick Kunda. Thank you, Nick. Says, do you think in his own time that Michael may speak to himself? Like he says actual words aloud to himself? Interesting question. I'm going to say no. Does he have thoughts? Yes. But I think the design of the character was he lacks empathy. He lacks sympathy. He lacks the ability to reason, even in the most, as Donald Pleasance would say, rudimentary sense, which means simplest sense, basic sense, to understand good or evil, right or wrong, life or death, that kind of thing. He's a very sort of, he's like a force of nature. He's like the wind. That was the original intent, right? So, I'm going to say no on that one. Let's see here. Zach Frederick says, I think they made him too superhuman in the 2018 film. He crushed that guy's head with just his foot. Great kill, but it's more suited for Jason or Freddy when he gets you in the dream world. I could not agree more. I thought the death of Sartain was very out of place. The way Sartain went down, I thought was strange and unusual and very out of place. So I could not agree more with that. Hey, 243 people watching. Great to see all you guys here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hey, if you're not following me on social media, follow me. There's my Twitter and Instagram below. Twitter is at the VoiceMann with 2 N's. Okay, that's my official Twitter, and my official Instagram is at Dave McRae 79. Anybody else pretending to be me is not me. I only say that because about 2 years ago, there was a Instagram account that somebody had created in my name and had like 500 people following and was posting as me. And I'm like, that's not me. So I had to inform, because they could have said anything. I mean, they could have started saying like racist shit and people would have been like, what the fuck? And then how do I, so I had to inform Instagram that ain't me. You got to get rid of that account. Here's the proof and blah, blah. And they did, thankfully. So I thought, I better create one before people start, yeah. Anyway, a couple super chats come in. Shad got game again. He still got game, that Shad. He still got game. Would you ever consider watching fan films and discussing them on your channel? Not review, but just watching and discuss that type of thing. Here's the thing, is that, and I, it's so cool, but the reason why I don't read scripts and the reason why I don't do fan film reviews in the traditional sense, if I have a personal connection with somebody, like if they're a friend of mine or a patron of mine, or there's some sort of relationship there, I will take a look at it and maybe talk about it, recommend it if I feel that I want to recommend it. But I always tell people that I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be honest, and just know. But the reason why I don't do it in the general sense is because I'd be doing it all the time. I can't tell you how many messages I've gotten from people wanting me to read their scripts, wanting me to check out their fan films. It's just, I just can't do it, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, and it is the truth. It's the truth. It still blows me away. But it's the truth, is that on my official Facebook page for this channel, not my personal one, but for this channel, the Many Things Dave McRae, I still receive, on average, generally speaking, probably about 30, 35 messages a day. And sometimes they are long messages that I don't have the time to read, let alone respond to. And sometimes they're just people saying, hey man, love your shit, keep up the great work, which is totally awesome. But I'm so thankful and humbled by the response to this channel that it's just amazing. But anybody who does this kind of thing will tell you, we'll respond when we can and where we can, but we just can't possibly respond to everybody. There's just too many people. And if I get that kind of shit, I can only imagine, the messages that the big channels get. I mean, you know what I mean? Which is probably why sometimes you see them turn off their ability to message them, because, there's just too many. So I'm going to say no on that, because if I start everybody's going to want me to do it. It's nothing personal, but thank you for supporting the channel, man. Really appreciate that. Let's see here. Michael Myers fan 1001 says, do you think Michael would commit necrophilia? Maybe. I think that's more, I'm going to say no. I think that's more, I don't think he would. That doesn't seem like something he would do. I don't think he feels those things, you know? I don't know. Interesting question. Mystery Mojo Film says, Dave, are you excited for Avatar 2? You know, you're damn right I am. I know Avatar gets a bad rap. I know that there are people that don't like Avatar but they use the same, the thing that frustrates me about people who don't like Avatar, and you're entitled to not like Avatar, and you're entitled to not like Avatar for the reasons that you don't want. But I see a lot of the same buzzwords and a lot of the same thing that people are glomming onto, and sort of, you know, it's that groupthink mentality that, you know, we live in now, whether it's politics or entertainment. And look, if you genuinely didn't like Avatar, and that's cool. But the excuse that I don't like Avatar because, it's just Dances with Wolves but in space, just Pocahontas in space. Yeah, you know, there's a lot of that. Star Wars ain't original either, people. And if I had the time right now, I could tell you where the world of Star Wars came from as well. And Indiana Jones ain't original either. It was based on the 1930 serials of the swashbuckling and we could go on and draw parallels to some of your most beloved franchises and where they're ripped off from, or where there's very few new stories. There's just new ways to tell them. And James Cameron is a genius at creating a story that can resonate with everybody, that there's a lot of things for everybody to experience. And it wasn't supposed to be this game-changing, deep-seated story. It was game-changing because of technology. And Avatar was a wonderfully produced and executed science fiction epic film that I thoroughly enjoyed, and I thought the 3D was beautifully done. It was nuanced. It wasn't in your face like this. It was just complementing the film. You can watch it with it or without it. And it was just a terrific example of technology and epic storytelling that I thought was beautifully done. I thought it was great. And you never count out James Cameron. And the reason why I'm looking forward to Avatar 2 the most is not because I thought the story of Avatar was this. No, I thought it was fine. I thought it was serviceable. It wasn't anything that I hadn't seen before, but it wasn't anything that was so lame and boring that I felt like, oh, this fucking sucked. Fuck you. It wasn't like that. I mean, come on. It's not like watching Halloween 5, you know, or Halloween Resurrection, or, I mean, you know, it was a great science fiction film. It's not going to change the face of cinema in terms of its deep-seated philosophical, you know, cerebral concepts. No, it's stuff that we have seen before. But I thought it was a wonderful, well-told, fun, epic science fiction film. But James Cameron is not just a director. He's like George Lucas in the sense that he loves inventing new technology. The technology that existed to create Avatar ceased to exist before the production of Avatar. The cameras they used to make Avatar did not exist before Avatar. Because where Cameron comes from, was he the art department or the director? He comes from he has a background that is not just in directing films. He has a very technological background in creating things for movies. And it's very much how Lucas was in terms of THX and you know, Industrial Light and Magic and I mean, even Photoshop was a thing that Lucas, I think, had his hand in on. So Cameron has created new technology for this new Avatar film that I can't wait to see. Now, listen, you still have to have a good story. You still have to have good characters. You still have to have, you know, a narrative that keeps you interested and entertained, of course. but he is creating technology for this new sequel that did not exist. He's utilizing underwater technology in the 3D realm that has never been done before. He wants to create, and I don't think it will be in time for Avatar 2, but he's talked about, as some of you know, creating 3D technology where you can go to the movie, watch a 3D film, you don't have to put glasses on. You don't have to put glasses on. Now, I don't think that's going to be an Avatar 2 thing, but they're talking about that kind of stuff. And you never count out James Cameron. I mean, look at him. Aliens, okay? The Abyss, Terminator, Terminator 2, Titanic, True Lies, Avatar. You don't count this guy out, folks. You'd be stupid to count him out. Now, does every king fall at some point? Does every guy have a bad movie at some point? Sure. But you don't want to bet against him, that's for sure. So you're damn right I'm looking forward to it, man. And thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate that. Super chat comes in from TMB, says, Dave, just finished my home workout and a great surprise AMA. Cool. I'm glad I could be your decompressor for your workout. Question, if Jamie Lee returned for Halloween 4, would the series still have fallen? I'm gonna say no, not necessarily, because the series, I've said this before, and a lot of people tend to challenge me on it, and I think it's because largely people don't understand what I mean. You've often heard me say that Halloween 5 is the catalyst that drove Halloween into the ground. And people say, well, yeah, but Halloween H2O was... The reason why I say Halloween 5 was a catalyst is because Halloween 4, although I don't think it's a particularly great movie, it was a decent return to the franchise, okay? It was a decent return. Most people agree that out of all the sequels after 2, 4 is not bad, pretty good. I understand that there is an emotional, nostalgic attachment to to H2O. I understand that. But 4 was a decent return to the franchise. There's a lot of things about 4. Wait, are we there? We are. Wait, are we there? Oh, wait, you guys can hear me? Hang on a sec. Oh, no. 1 second, guys. I'm trying to come back. I know you can hear me, but I'm frozen on the screen. 1 second here. I'm frozen on the screen. I know you can hear me. Wait a minute. Wait. I think I'm back. Oh, shit. Wait, I think I'm here. I think I'm back. Am I back? Am I on? Whoa, wait a sec. What's going on? I think I am on, ladies and gentlemen. Am I on? Yes, I hear you, man. I'm here. Not sure what happened there. Crazy. I'm here. I think, Dave, you're back. Okay, good. I'm back. What was I saying before I went, before things screwed up there? What was going on? I don't know what happened there. Crazy shit. Sometimes those things happen, folks. Let me just go back and check something here. I want to check something, make sure what's going on. God, I hope they didn't, let me just see here. No, it says I'm still live. I think I'm still live on the same stream too, which is pretty impressive. Because that might have been an issue. But I think I'm live. Guys, you can hear me, which is good. I see all of you. Last thing I heard was H4 was a decent return. You were talking about H4. Okay, cool. All right, well, let's keep going here. So as I was saying, yes, I was talking about Halloween. Yeah, I think Halloween 4 is was a decent return to the franchise. And I don't think that if Laurie Strode had been in that movie, I mean, it would have been a very different film, right? And who knows what the story and how they constructed that would have been. Audio sync is off. Oh, is it off? Audio sync is off. Let me just see. Oh, is it off? It looks good to me. Does anybody else know the audio sync? It looks good to me, but I'm not sure. No, it's good. Audio is good. Audio is good to me. Audio is good to me. Refresh your page and see if that helps. Looks like it's good to me, but it might be screwed up when this thing goes live as well at the end. We'll see what happens. I don't know why it did that, but nonetheless, everything looks good at the moment. If you're watching after the fact, you may know that the audio is off, or you may see that the audio is off, and you may have to just listen from there on in. So if you are watching after the fact and you get to about the hour point of the show and my voice is off with the audio, if that does happen, just listen from there on in. I'm not sure what actually happened there, but let's keep this going for a little bit longer. So yeah, so I think ideally, at the end of the day, I think 5 is where things went off the rails. So I think if she was in part 4, again, you'd have to restructure things, but I think it's really what they do with 5. What would they have done with Halloween 5 had Laurie Strode been in 4? And maybe that would have been interesting. Maybe Jamie at the end of 4 doesn't stab her stepmother, she stabs her mother. Can you imagine that? She stabs Laurie Strode and you find out, and there she is at the top of the. Can you imagine how much more weight that would have brought to that movie? If it's not her stepmother she's stabbing, it's Laurie Strode she's stabbing. Oh, dude, that would have been fucking wild. That would have been wild. Hey, did I miss any super chats? I don't think I did. I think I caught all those super chats. I think I did. Let me, actually, I want to go back to the other view as well. And I notice that I'm dark in that other view. So get those questions in, folks. Let me get this sorted out with this view here of my other camera. I'm very dark in there. I want to make sure that I am not that dark before I bring myself back over. There we go. Oh, that's a little too hot. Go back over here, bring me down. Still kind of hot on that. Let me go over here. I think I look, not what I wanted, but, oh, wait, I think I did it. I think I fixed it. Yeah, that's better. All right. Good. Let me go back over to that other, and the white balance is a little off. You'll notice a change in color as well when I go back, but nonetheless, let me go back to that other view. Oh, oops, wrong one. There we go. How you guys doing? Back to the other view. I sometimes like to do these casual AMAs from this perspective, but nonetheless, we're back, which is always good. Cavern of Terror sends in a super chat. Thank you, buddy. Says, do you think that the original Ghostface look should come back for the new Scream film? Tagged along by Roger Jackson's voice. I think it should as well. He is that look for Ghostface and his voice, if he wants to do it, if he can still do it, if you can get him to do it, is part of the identity of Ghostface. So yes, absolutely. I could not agree more with that. Jonathan Nichols says, Dave McRae, any plans to get Jimmy Champagne on the show? Would love to hear you guys talk Halloween. Absolutely. If Jimmy Champagne is watching, I would love to get him on the show. 100%. Love to talk shop and talk Halloween with him and find out his story. You know, he's an interesting cat and a really cool guy. And I would love to get to know his story a bit. Robert Kitzmiller sends in a super chat. Thank you, buddy. He says, I was in the market for an independent mask. What would be a good recommendation, Dave? Well, it all depends on your budget. It all depends on your budget. You know, when you look at some of the independent masks I have back here, this is that's an independent H18 mask. That's not a Trick or Treat Studios mask. Excuse me. None of them are. I forget the gentleman who created that, and I forget the gentleman who created this. This is an MMK All Hallows Ghost mask, I believe. You have to get yourself sort of absorbed into the independent mask scene. So join the michaelmyers.net Facebook page, go to the michaelmyers.net website, and sort of get yourself familiar with the artists who do them. You know, there's Nag, there's All Hallows Ghost, there's JC that do, you know, James Carter that does a lot of rehauls. So, I'm looking up here. I should be looking down there. I forgot I switched. But be prepared that to get a good one, something that looks like this, these three, you're probably going to pay anywhere between $500 and $700 for one, US. So, Or you can get a Trick or Treat Studios H18 mask or H78 mask and send them to James Carter or, Freddie Lauper, I think is one that does, rehauls, I think. And maybe they actually, and then just get it rehauled. And maybe you only spend $250, $300 to get it rehauled. So it's a bit cheaper, but there's many different ways to do it. It all depends on your budget. But if you have a budget of $100, you're probably not going to get one that looks like that. But it depends. All depends on your budget. So just do your due diligence and look for, submerge yourself into the independent scene is what I would do with that. Let's see here. No other ones came in. Great. 188 people watching. We're slowly rising. When the stream kind of crapped out, we had, I think, 260 something people were watching. So my apologies. But apparently I've talked to other people too. And there's been a lot of streams lately kind of hiccuping and crapping out altogether. My stream will sometimes hiccup a bit, but we usually resolve itself with no issues. And I have the fastest internet money can buy, and the fastest one, a really fast computer as well with a really fast processor. So I know it's not that, but sometimes these things happen, and I definitely know that lately other people have having some issues as well. So it could just be that everybody's online, I don't know, who the fuck knows, but we're back. That's the most important thing. We're back. We're here. We're doing what we can do. Crystal Lake Counselor 1977 says, Dave, in The Empire Strikes Back, Vader tells Lando he should pray he doesn't alter his plans any further. That's true. Prayer is defined as communication with a deity. The Star Wars universe, what did Vader mean? Well, I think if we want to be realistic here, okay, if we want to go back to the mindset, I think it's just a figure of speech. Now, again, you have to go back to way back at the time. There's a lot of things that have come out that people look back on and retrospect and try to dissect. Well, then that means, no, it doesn't necessarily mean that at all. It's, the movie has to be told in English, and there are just certain phrases that can be used to, get a point across. I think if you want to get technical, then, we can also say things like, why are they speaking English? If we really want to get technical, why are they speaking English? It's a galaxy far, far away. Why are they bipedal? Why are they human beings? Why? It's not Earth. It's not even the Milky Way. It's a galaxy far, far away. Are we led to believe that people who are that human beings, who are flying spaceships, who are speaking and saying words like the and to and how are you and how is that possible? How's that possible? Oh, well, wait a minute here. If they're not using science, if you were to travel at the speed of light, and go across the galaxy, we know that time slows down for those who are traveling at the speed of light. So we know that maybe 10 minutes have passed for you, but 5 hours have passed for other people. If they're traveling at the speed of light for, let's say an hour trying to get across the galaxy, we know that time for wherever they're going would be very different from wherever they're coming. They don't factor that into Star Wars. Because you got to suspend your disbelief a little bit here, right? And I likely think that the phrase "pray that I don't alter," or "pray that it isn't altered further," or whatever the exact phrase. It's just it's a way to say that be thankful, or you better hope. You better hope that these plans are not altered any further because I'm the one in fucking charge here, you bitch. It's essentially what it means. But it's a more of a poetic, romantic way of saying it. Pray I don't alter it any further. It's basically saying you better hope I don't, right? I don't think it's to be taken in the literal sense that he wants Lando to pray to somebody. I don't think that's what it means. But if you want to use it as that, there's probably a lot of people who fancy themselves deities, right? Like Vader. The Emperor certainly probably fancies himself as one. He probably suffers from delusions of grandeur. And actually, if you think about it, who's to say he isn't one? He has godlike powers for evil, sure, but he is a god for all intents and purposes. He's pretty godlike. Vader's pretty fucking godlike, if you ask me. So, but in the literal sense, I think it's just a figure of speech. I think it just means hope that I don't change this again. hopefully that helps to answer that for you. But hey, talk to Lawrence Kasdan and he might say something different. That's how I see it anyway. Nick Kunda sends in a super chat, says, how would you feel if the H-18 kills and ends mask looked like the actual 1978 mask as it is today? All crumbled and faded. I don't think it would work because you have to sell it. You know, it's got to look like, I understand why they made it look the way they did, because I think although for hardcore fans, they would love that. I think from a purely aesthetic visual point, in terms of the branding and in terms of the marketing and in terms of the identity of the character, I don't know if it would have worked as well. You know, I understand why they made the choice they did to have it that way, so to speak. So, yeah. Let's go back to my other shot here. I'm thinking about getting maybe a couple other camera shots as well for these shows, which I think would be really cool. I had 202 people watching. We didn't quite recover everybody, but we've recovered most of you, which is great. My apologies again if you're watching after the fact to the hiccup there in the stream. Who knows what happened there? I mean, I know that YouTube has been going crazy lately. I mean, there's a reason why Netflix has had to lower the quality of their streaming. So who knows what the fuck happened there. I do tend to have some minor hiccups in my streams from time to time, although I find that Two Dudes and Some Bullshit runs flawlessly. Now that's Monday nights. Maybe Monday night, it's just, I don't know. I never have a hiccup with Two Dudes. Now that I've said that, watch, there'll be one this Monday. But I usually find I'll have a minor hiccup here or there in my live feeds on McRae Live. There'll just be a bit of a hiccup. And today we just had a major one. So who the fuck knows what's going on? But it ain't my internet, I can tell you that. DMT Infinity says, hey, Dave, sorry I'm late, homie. That's okay. You're entitled to be late. I just started getting into 3D animation and I'm currently rendering my first 3D animation. So cool. Awesome, man. That's totally awesome. Intel Wild sends a super chat, says, hey, Dave, gonna check out Invisible Man during quarantine? Definitely. I just haven't done that yet, but I am definitely going to check it out for sure. Zach Axiola says, Dave, thoughts on George A. Romero being on the Rushmore of horror directors? I would be okay with it. George A. Romero is primarily known for his zombie movies, so he's pigeonholed into one sort of subsection of horror, but he's incredibly influential. And I think if you were to, like, if your Rushmore was Carpenter, Craven, Hitchcock, and Romero, I would be okay with that. I'd be okay with that. Because he's incredibly influential. You have to understand that if you are trying to come up with the Mount Rushmore of horror directors, it can't just be people who were popular or a popular name. Generally, you want 4 men or a woman. Of course, it would be men right now because of the nature of the business. That might change and hopefully will change in the years to come. But as of right now, from where we're coming from, it would be 4 men, 4 influential men who are in the world of horror. And I think it's safe to say that Carpenter, Craven, Romero, and Hitchcock in the world of horror, definitely influential. So I think that's not a bad choice. 25, 30 years from now, there could be another Mount Rushmore that could be very different and maybe even have a woman on there too. Maybe even 2. That would be really cool. Let's see. Freshy Thrashy. I love that name. Hey, Dave, great stream. Well, thank you for saying that. Sorry about the hiccup, folks. Great stream. What are your favorite Fulci movie? Okay, well, again, off the top of my head, I'm not sure because I would need to brush up on, let me just look at because I want to brush up on to see if I've even seen any of his movies. I've seen a lot of Hammer films, and I want to make sure that I have, right. I'm going to say, let me just go to his, because I want to make sure that I've seen, is he the one that, let me go back here. Because I don't want to lie. I want to be truthful. And let me see. Okay, no, he wasn't the one that did that. I'm going to say, because there is a couple here that I have seen that I was unaware that he was a director of, but I haven't seen many of his movies. To be fair, I haven't seen many of his movies. There's a couple I've seen. I know I've seen Voices from Beyond, but he didn't. No, he did direct that. Yeah, I haven't seen many of his movies, to be honest. I haven't seen many of his movies. I have seen Voices from Beyond, and I did see The Black Cat. But I mean, I can't say that that's my favorite movie because I haven't seen many of his films. So I think I'm going to say I need to brush up on his filmography more. When you said the name, I recognized the name, but his filmography, I haven't seen many of his movies. And oh, he did that, didn't he? He did the original White Fang, which was redone in the early 90s. Fascinating. I'm going to have to brush up on him, buddy, so I can answer that question more authentically. And I've only seen, from what I can see there, I've only seen a couple, and I can't say, well, The Black Cat is my favorite, because I haven't seen enough to know whether that would be my favorite. But really good question. Really good question. I'm going to need to brush up on that, man. Thank you for the question. Let me see here. Zach Frederick says, women are not owed anything. If they want to be mentioned amongst the greatest, they must work like men have. But if a woman ends up there one day, I'd love it. Penny Marshall was a great director. Well, let me piggyback on what you said there. And I think it's important because some people might take that because you're being very blunt. I agree with the principle of that. What's important is opportunity. That's what's important. It's important to give people who are talented, who possess a certain level of talent and drive and passion, the same opportunities that you would give other people. It's not about, it's that old saying, it's about quality of opportunity, not quality of outcome. Am I saying that right? I think that's right. That chat room will correct me. It's important to give the same opportunities, but it's also important to understand that that doesn't mean that everybody's going to have the same outcome. It's if you recognize talented individuals, whether they are black or white or Asian or female or male, whatever it is, it's about giving them the same opportunities in the appropriate capacities. And then you let the chips fall where they may, and you see what happens. And then it's genuine, then it's authentic, and then it's deserved. You know what I'm saying? But if you just give, I cannot help but feel, and I hate to say this, and I have no evidence of this, I don't have any evidence of this, but I can't help but feel that because of the rushed production of Black Christmas 2019, because it was written and directed by, two women, Sophia Takal and April Wolf, and it was directed by Sophia Takal, hopefully I'm saying that right, who's very talented in her own right. But I cannot help but feel that this was somehow damage control that Blumhouse was doing and trying to be progressive in a way. And they rushed this thing like it was nobody's business. And there was a very clear, and there's nothing wrong with this in and of itself, but there was a clear political motivated, agenda here. Absolutely. Which I actually think it did a disservice to the film. Because it was piggybacking on the Black Christmas name. And that's not how you raise people up. It's not how that's not how you do it. It's not how you do it. And I can't help but feel that there was a bit of that there, and then, it's unfortunate because I would really like to see, because I think Sophia Takal is talented, and I would like to see her do something that doesn't have a slant to it, because that's how you lift people up. You don't make an Indiana Jane, don't make a James or a Jane Bond. Don't do that. Because because if it is it successful because people wanted a Jane Bond and an Indiana Jane, or is it successful because you're riding on the coattails of something a man created? I mean, think about that, because you are. You are. And you don't want that, do you? So it's about creating original content. It's about character and story. That's the most important thing. And if you create a great character with a great story, men will support it. Men will go, look, are there misogynistic, self-centered, egotistical fuckheads? Of course. But generally speaking, okay, I would like to think, generally speaking, men want that, man. We want that. And we'll be there to support it. But it's got to be done organically. It can't be synthetically created because it just feels chintzy. It feels cheap. It doesn't feel sincere and honest, you know, so, you know, I'm all for it, man. I'm all for it. There are a lot of talented female voice actors out there. I've worked with them. There are a lot of talented female producers and writers and directors and filmmakers now that are out there. You know what I mean? It's about opportunity. Michael Myers says, hey, Dave, if you had the chance to write and direct a Halloween reboot, what would the plot be? I don't know, because I just would not want to revisit this again. You know, it's so hard to know because, you know, I think once Halloween ends, it's kind of like, that's it. It's over, you know, and I just don't want to continue this thing on. I don't feel the need to go on with Michael Myers. I know there are a lot of people that would disagree with me. But if there's one thing I do know, it's this. Once Halloween ends, it ends. That doesn't mean, like you said, you reboot it. But this story connected to the 1978 original has got to end. It's got to end. It's okay to let it go. Now, maybe you reboot it, like you're saying, 5 years from now. What do? I have to admit, I'm not excited about a reboot of the whole thing. Because, like, we just watched the story. Like, what are you going to do? But I think your question is in line of like, what do you do? Like, you know, and I don't know. Like, why tell this story again? I'm more fascinated with just telling original stories. You know, original horror. Horror needs more original stories. And I think, you know, hey, why not tell old Charlie Bowles and his Hacksaw? Hey, there you go. Create an original slasher film with that. That might be cool, and it lives in the original Halloween universe. That's just kind of cool to me. That's not going to make you $200 million at the box office, but maybe it would make a good streaming show or something. I don't know. All I know is that I need time to breathe. And if Halloween ends Halloween as we know it to be, as we know it, like, you know, these films connected, I need some time. I don't want to fucking hear, you know, they're rebooting it in 2024. It's like, we just fucking went through. Why? Give yourself some breathing room here. I mean, we know why. And money. I mean, we know why. That's a rhetorical question, but why? Like give some, I'm not excited. I mean, maybe you are, but I wouldn't be. Again? You reboot again? I don't know, you know, I mean, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice. We know how that goes, unless you're George W. Bush. But, you know, I just think that to reboot it, I wouldn't be excited to revisit Michael Myers. I would be more, because we've told his story. Can we really, here's the thing. Okay, so we've had it told from a cult perspective. We've had it told from a brother-sister perspective. We're now having it told from a non-brother-sister perspective, a non-cult perspective. What more is, what more is there to do? I mean, you know, I don't know about you guys, but if Halloween ends, Halloween as we know it, and then they want to reboot it like 2 years or a year down the road or 4 years down the road, and they're telling the story of Michael again, I don't know. I guess it's all, I mean, listen, I will always be interested. There are a lot of people that say to me, well, listen, you know, you don't like Halloween 5 and 6, and you weren't even a big fan of the H-18 movie. How can you, you know, talk about it on your channel? And I thought you hate it. But, well, who says you have to love something to talk about? I'm a Halloween fan. I'm always going to be interested in what they're doing and the dynamics and the writers and the directing and the production and what the movie's like. And I'm always going to be interested in that, which is why I can talk about it. But I can't say that I would be excited about rebooting it again, at least so soon. You know, maybe if I turn 60 and they're rebooting it for a new generation, maybe, you know, but I'm 41. I'll be 42 when Halloween ends. they reboot it when I'm 44. It's like, what? Didn't we just tell this story? Like, I don't know. That's how I feel about it, man. But thank you for the question. Really appreciate it, dude. Really, really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Let me scroll back. Super chat comes in from Intel Weil. Thank you, Intel. It says, Dave, how about every month you give your one or two most super chatters a free patron link or something along those lines? That would be us giving back to McRae community. Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. I'm constantly evolving this channel, and there are certain things that I am thinking about that I haven't implemented yet, along sort of those lines, like a $50 super chat. If somebody was to send in a $50 super chat, it would get you this. Or if somebody sends in $100 super chat, it will get you this. Or somebody sends in a $25. I've thought about that. I haven't figured out the logistics yet of what that would be and all, what that entails. But I've been thinking about that and thinking about, making it fun and interactive for, the viewers, and those people that want to do that can do that. Those people that can't afford it or don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. It's not a prerequisite or anything, right? But more along the lines of what you're saying, to keep things interesting and fun So I'm not necessarily specifically that, but certainly I like the way you're thinking. I like the way you're thinking, and I wouldn't rule that out either. So yes, I haven't implemented that yet, but we're thinking about those things here on the channel, and it's fun to do that kind of stuff. PC Pierce says, Dave, what's your favorite female directed movie? My favorite female directed movie? Well, I would probably say, and this is not a cop-out because, everybody tends to lean on her when you think about female directors. But Penny Marshall, of course, directed the Academy Award-nominated film Big. And Big was the first movie in motion picture history to cross $100 million at the box office that was directed by a female. So that's pretty cool. And Penny Marshall, of course, rest in peace. She's no longer with us, but I adore that movie. And it's a, I don't want to say it's a guilty pleasure because that implies that it's not a good movie. But it's a guilty pleasure in the sense that it's a comfort movie. I like that movie. I can have it on in the background and just kind of work away on whatever I'm doing. I feel that way too about another Tom Hanks film, The Burbs, where I can just kind of have it on in the background and I just kind of do my thing. You know what I mean? So I would say Penny Marshall and Big at the moment, I think would be my favorite. But there's a lot of good ones out there. And certainly in the new era we're in, I hope to see a lot more because there are a lot of talented directors out there. I've worked with a lot of female directors in the voiceover world, many of them Emmy nominated, Emmy winning. And I can tell you, it's voiceover, but I can certainly tell you there's a lot of talent out there of the female persuasion. So, it's great to see. And they're just as professional as any man that I've ever worked with. And that's not me trying to push an agenda. I'm just saying that's the facts. It's the facts. You know what I mean? So that's my experience. That doesn't mean everybody's talented. There are talented men. There are talented women. There are not so talented men and not so talented women. That's just that's the nature of the game, right? Let me see here. A couple super chats come in. Shad God Game, thank you so much, buddy. Says, do you have an original slasher villain concept? If so, will you share it with us? I don't know if I have an original slasher villain concept. I just know that it would be, I agree that it would be cool to see an original slasher villain again. But again, not to sound like a broken record here, but there's reasons why we don't. The horror genre has changed a lot over the years, and we're not, at one time when I was a young boy, horror was slasher. That just was, mainstream horror was slasher movies. Well, now slasher movies, and for quite some time, are really just B movies. They're independent movies that maybe don't get a theatrical release or go straight to, DVD or, whatever it is, right? And it's been that way for quite some time. So, and the perfect example of that is Art the Clown, right? From Terrifier. Terrifier is a low budget independent movie, but yet you could say that he's very well known. And the primary reason for that is because they've taken that image and they've really promoted it through T-shirts and pins and artwork, and he's out there. Everybody knows Art the Clown from Terrifier, and yet he's only had one movie. I mean, I know he was in the other film, what is it, Trick or Treat or whatever it was, or where he wasn't the primary focus, but he's had one movie all on his own. Terrifier 2 is in production right now. I'm thinking about getting Michael Levy on, one of the producers who's producing that movie, who I not know well, but we met at the convention in Pasadena. And but again, that's a low budget independent movie. Now, when I say low budget, I don't mean shitty movie. I just mean low budget. It's, in comparison. I mean, let's not forget, like a $2 million budget is considered low budget. So I think they raised $300,000 or $400,000 to do Terrifier 2, which is amazing. I don't know if they're done or if they got sidelined by COVID-19. I'm not sure. I know they were well into production when they were shooting it. Maybe they just made it under the bar. But that's a slasher film for all intents and purposes, right? But it's a B movie, independent film. So that's sort of where slashers are now. And I just don't think you would ever see at this point in time, horror is maturing, it's evolving. I don't think the slasher subgenre will ever go away, but it certainly is, it's very niche. It's always been niche, but it's less mainstream now than it has ever been at any point in time in history. I mean, Freddy and Jason and Texas Chainsaw were well, not necessarily Texas Chainsaw, but Freddy and Jason were mainstream horror films that people that opened to at number one at the box office in their days. You know what I mean? I mean, that's crazy to think, right? Not so much anymore. Although, if you were to do Halloween Freddy and Jason now, they're mainstream. They get released today. They might do well and be number one at the box office, but it's because of the history, right? It's the creation of a new slasher villain that nobody's ever heard of, and trying to sell that as mainstream is the difficult part. That's the difficult part. Freddy, Jason, Michael, they're proven IPs, they're proven properties. They have nostalgia. They have, it's not hard to sell those in a mainstream capacity today. Somebody new, it's a great question. I like the chart, like as Mystery Mojo Film says here, what if the priest that picked up Loomis in H4 had a backstory of hunting Charlie Bowles? He was talking about hunting it. He's drunk to cope with it. Not a bad idea, man. I like that idea. Again, that would be connected to the Halloween universe, so not quite mainstream in terms of its own thing, but I like that idea. I've always thought that Charlie Bowles would make an interesting slasher genre. But you know what? When I think about Charlie Bowles, I see a Charlie Bowles story not in mainstream. It's I don't know. It's a great question. I mean, what hasn't been done? We've had the machete, we've had the hacksaw, we've had the glove, we've had the knife, we've had the goalie mask, the white face mask, the guy in your dreams, the guy who's burned. I mean, any sort of villain you create will be a great value brand version of any of the mainstream competitor, counterparts. So, but that doesn't mean it wouldn't be cool. I think it's about lore. At the end of the day, I think when you are creating a slasher villain, create a lore, create a mythology. If people can become emotionally attached to the mythology and the lore, you create a mystique. You create a mood. You create a mystery. Now, whether you want to tell the backstory of that is up to you. You can tell the backstory like you do with Freddy and Jason, or you can not tell the backstory like you with Michael. He does have his backstory told. He was this kid that murdered his sister, and blah. But in terms of what drives him, right? Focus on the mythology and the lore. And when you can create a very cool mythology, a character is born from that. And then that's the catalyst that drives the character forward. Slasher villains without lore and history are just one-dimensional. You want to create a villain that's at least 2.5 dimensional, maybe not quite 3-dimensional, but something like that. That's what I would concentrate on. So I don't know specifically for the reasons I've stated, but I would focus on that. Like, what would be a cool story? You know what I mean? And kind of try to figure, have some sort of character rise from the ashes from this lore and mythology that I am creating. It starts with story and character. Great questions, guys. You guys are amazing. We'll go a little bit longer here. Michael Faulkner says, yes, we'll travel the river, the beautiful, beautiful river, travel the river, the beautiful, beautiful river, where the saints are at the river. Yeah, the old guy in H4. Kenny_525 says, a cool mythology like Jeepers Creepers. That's exactly my point. Like, I mean, the first Jeepers Creepers is really good. It's too bad it's directed by a guy who's a child molester and had child porn. It's too bad, because that's a good example of a slasher villain that had a lot of potential and unfortunately just kind of, you know what I mean? Yeah, that's too bad. Too bad, man. Just going back, making sure. Okay. Let me just let me hear myself here. See, you know what I mean? Okay, so on the live stream, in case you're just joining us, the live stream, the audio's fine. Everything looks good on my channel here, on my Windows here, where I'm watching the audio levels and the screens and everything. I got a bunch of shit up here. Everything looks good. But it is possible that if you're watching this after the fact, there's a moment, maybe 45 minutes into my stream, where the audio fucks up and now I'm completely out of sync. That's entirely possible. If that happens, that's going to happen in the processing of how YouTube processes the fuck up, and that is possible. So if that does happen, my apologies. That's out of my control. Just continue to listen, maybe in your earbuds, and work away while you're doing whatever it is you're doing, and just don't watch me. So my apologies for that. Hopefully, because everything looks good in real time, but it all depends on how YouTube processes this. All right, we'll go for a few minutes here. We'll go for a few minutes longer, and then I got to skedaddle. Tabitha Short says, Dave, you missed a super chat from Macca525. Thank you, Tabitha. Can always count on Tabitha to nail that down. Let's see what's going on here. Macca525. Oh, there it is. Yes, thank you. Macca525 sends a super chat. Thank you, Macca. Says, struggling with quarantine, glad you're around. Well, thank you so much, buddy. Really appreciate it. I am glad you guys are around. And I don't mean that really in a joking way, because if you guys weren't here, I wouldn't be doing this stream. It's not like I'd be talking to myself, although, as you can clearly see, I never know when to shut up and probably could do a pretty good job of that. But thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate it, guys. It helps keep these channels going, man. This channel, I should say, going. Really appreciate it. Swifty the Gamer says, if there's a Back to the Future 4 right after 3 came out, where in time would they have traveled to? Well, because you went back in 3 to the 1800s, I think you go even further, because they went to 2019, right? I think you go then even further. Like, Back to the Future was 55, 85. It was 100 years, right, in part 3. So you go 100 years into the future. So you'd go to 2085 then. Yeah, is what you would do. Instead of going to 2019, you'd go to 2085. So if there was a 4, that's what I think they should have done, and go to 2085 and really. But the problem with that is that 2019 was so futuristic for its time. I mean, the movie came out in 1990, right? Imagining a world 30 years from 1985 with flying cars and pizzas that you can cook and kind of become really big in a matter of like 2 seconds. It was so futuristic. It's almost like what you picture 2085 to be. So they would have to really make 2085 look like really futuristic. Like, I don't even know what you would do then. Like, maybe I don't know. But I think that's what you would probably do in a case like that. Johnny T says, Dave, what about a villain that starts out as a child and each sequel follows as he grows into an adult? Maybe something like Brightburn. You know what? Not bad idea. I really liked Brightburn a lot, actually. Really liked that. So that's not a bad idea. Not a bad idea at all. Let me see here. Hang on. There's something I want to grab before I say goodbye. There we go. Not a bad idea, though, man. Not a bad idea. David Johnson says, what are your thoughts on the baby crying scene in Halloween 2008? Do you think pure evil would have killed the baby? I understand why they didn't. It may have been also an MPAA or an MPA now, the Motion Picture Association. May have been that, because even if you don't show Michael killing the baby, the suggestion of it may be a little too much for the audience. That might have been a reason. I've always been of the mindset that I would have been okay if he killed the kid. I'm just saying, I don't think you show him killing the baby, but alluding to it, like maybe he looks into the crib and the baby's crying and it's just sort of this slow zoom up on his face and then it cuts away. I would have been okay with that. I think that would have been cool. Would have been cool for sure. Let me see. Okay, we'll take this thing to 4 o'clock, folks. 4 o'clock Eastern time here. That means you got another 7 minutes. 7 minutes to get in those super chats. 7 minutes to get in those questions. Again, if I don't answer your general questions, it's nothing personal. It's just a lot of people in the room, of course, and obviously the super chats take priority. But I appreciate everybody. Nept Man says, you think we see too much of Michael in 78 when Loomis and Marion Chambers go to pick him up? I hate seeing Michael run up the back of the car and get inside. Not a bad question. Not a bad question. It's never bothered me. It's never bothered me. And I can't quite quantify why at the moment, but I have to admit it's never really bothered me. But I can understand why it might for some. And I can't at this very second in time intellectualize why it wouldn't. Leave it with me and maybe ask me again down the road. I can certainly understand why it would bother some, though. And of course, there's the wrench that is clearly in his hand as he smashes the window. I was surprised. I made a post about that maybe 6-8 months ago where I put a still frame up of the wrench in Michael's hand. Now, it's pretty common knowledge that he does have a wrench in his hand, and that's how he smashes the window beside Marion. But I was taken back by how many people actually didn't know that. There's still a lot of people out there that didn't know that he had a wrench in his hand. And it's very clearly visible if you pause it in the right spot, especially if you're watching it on Blu-ray or 4K. Lavon Jackson says, what bothers me is how he learns how to drive a fucking car. Like, who the fuck gave him driving lessons? Well, I think that never really bothered me. Again, I think it's because it's part of, I get it, but it's part of there's a lot of, listen, if he can take 6 shots, fall off a balcony, get up and walk away, if he can seemingly disappear in front of Laurie's eyes, knowing how to drive a car seems like the least of the weird things in that movie. Michael knowing how to drive a car is the least weird thing about Michael Myers in that movie. So I think that's why it didn't really bother me, and I don't really think about it. But I understand why it might for some. Let's see here. Wayne Downey says, Dave, we might have missed my... you might miss my super chat. I had to step out for a second, so I'm not entirely sure. Let me see, Wayne. Let me go back and see if I did. Wayne Downey. Oh, I did. I did miss it. I did taw a pussycat. Wayne says, no worries about the glitch. You froze on a pretty funny face, so worth it. Don't you hate that? You're sitting there like, hey, one of these days I would love to freeze like this. And then just have that like as my thumbnail. Thank you for supporting the channel, buddy. Really appreciate that, man. Really, really appreciate that. I think you guys are awesome. It keeps these shows going. But let me see here. So many people want to make sure, see if I get somebody I haven't. The Cyberman says, Dr. Loomis asked if he had lessons. You see, that's it too. I think part of the reason why it doesn't bother me, you see, when you present things that are strange, if the characters in the movie are just as perplexed and weirded out as you are, then it makes it feel like, well, hey, if the characters, it makes it feel more believable, right? So Dr. Wynn says, well, for Christ's sakes, he can't drive a car. And Dr. Loomis is like, well, I'm not saying exactly what he said, but basically Loomis is basically saying, well, he was doing very well last night. How the fuck did he, come on, right? That's what he's saying. Like, he was fucking doing well last night. So they're just as weirded out as we are. It's like they're drawing attention. They're letting the audience know, we know this is weird. Isn't that fucking weird? And it makes it, they normalize it. They normalize it by having the characters in the movie just as, asking those same questions, right? So when the characters ask those same questions, it's like just as weird. You know what I mean? And they normalize it then. You know what I mean? Now, that doesn't mean it's going to work for everything, but in little minor things like that, it helps create a sense of believability. Nick Kunda sends the super chat. Thank you, Nick. Says, Dave, what's your favorite lunchtime food to either make or get from a restaurant? Just made a few burgers for myself. Lunchtime food to make, get from restaurant. I'd say, I like a good pizza. I like a good pizza, man. Yeah, put some pineapple on there, some bacon, sausage. Yeah. Like me a good pizza. Super chat from TMB says, Dave, can you do the to find Chucky line? I get it now. Where are you going? To find Chucky. Yeah, she says that. To find Chucky. She really emphasizes the Chucky part in the original Child's Play. To find Chucky. She's angry. She's angry. All right, couple more minutes here. Let me see. You always want to get some people I haven't got yet. A lot of people in here. I just want to say thank you guys again for tuning in. Really appreciate it, guys. We've created this really cool community here, and through this time when, this whole COVID-19 thing is happening, it's fun to jump on and just talk shop and just answer your questions and just talk shop. That's what this is, right? Just hanging out. Just guys and gals and people and just hanging out, having some fun. LB says, Dave, what are your top 3 non-franchise slasher villains? Well, I would say Billy from Black Christmas. I would say Billy from Black Christmas. I would say non-franchise. That's a good question. I'm not sure. I got to think off the top of my head because what is a franchise? Some people may say, well, Black Christmas is a franchise. Well, I consider a franchise to be a series of films that are sequels, and then you have a franchise. I don't know. It's a good question. But Billy, I wouldn't consider Black Christmas a franchise, even though there are technically 3 films. But they're all 3 remake, or there's 3 films of the, it's 3 first installments, let's say. Billy for sure. But Billy from the original Black Christmas, not the sequel. And of course, there was no Billy in the remake in 2019. So I got to think about that. That's a good question. That's a really good question, dude. I got to think about that. Maku525 says, loving Mandalorian, but not a fan of Star Wars. What the fuck? Interesting. Very interesting insight there, man. You like the Mandalorian, but you're not a big fan of Star Wars. Fascinating. And then Maca525 follow. Oh, there's a couple more that came in here. Mystery Mojo Film says he wasn't a good swimmer. Wasn't a good swimmer. That's right. Or ya doll? Chucky did it. Ya doll? He says it like that. Nick Kunda says favorite mixed or straight drink. I'm not a big drinker, so I would say mixed drink, maybe just a rum and coke or something like that. I'm not a big drinker. I don't drink a lot. I drink on special occasions, like a nice dinner or some wine or something like that. But I would say probably that. And straight drink, you mean like non-alcoholic drink? It's got to be chocolate milk, man. Chocolate milk, my man. Maca525 says, you missed my last super chat, buddy. YouTube playing up. Did I get it? Hang on, let me go back here. Your last super chat was loving Mandalorian. Did I finally get it? That's the one that I see there. Let me scroll. I think that's the one. That's the only one that I see. So hopefully that's the one that you are referring to. And I've now gotten around to it, which I think I did. Yeah, cool stuff. Matthew Verhelen, am I saying that right? What's your favorite horror scene from a non-horror movie? I don't know. My favorite horror scene from a non-horror movie. Like a horrific scene in a non-horror movie. Oh, Jesus, I don't know. I would have to say maybe... God, maybe I take these things too seriously because I'm I'm stumped. I'm like, I gotta think about this serious. Like, Dave, just answer the question. Say anything. I don't want to say anything because you guys deserve the truth. That's how I am. I don't know, man. I gotta think on it. A horrific scene in a non-horror movie. I don't know. This isn't really horrific, but maybe Luke getting his hand cut off by Vader. No, I'm just saying that now to fill something, but. Cool. That's a cool question. I got to figure that out. I really got to figure that out. Listen, folks, that is going to do it for me here on this impromptu Sunday AMA, talking Halloween, talking, movies and Candyman. Well, we didn't really talk Candyman, but of course, talking about that at the beginning of the stream. Folks, I want to thank you, each and every one of you, for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the super chats as well. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that, I should say, and all your questions. We have built a little community here. We are continuing to grow. We're approaching 21,000 subscribers, which is just really awesome. And you guys are amazing. I had some time this afternoon and I wanted to jump on and talk some shop with you. And specifically because I heard that the Candyman, movie had been pushed. And I was like, what does it mean? Watch the beginning of the stream and you'll find out that what I think all about that, of course. I just find this kind of stuff really interesting. So I need somebody to talk about. I need you guys to talk to. You know what I'm saying? So you guys are amazing. I will be back tomorrow night on episode, I think it's 64, I think it is, of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. Maybe it's 65, I don't know. Tony and I are watching Poltergeist, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Do not miss it. Tomorrow night, right here on this channel, we'll be watching that and taking your live viewer questions, of course. So have a great rest of your weekend. Have a great rest of your Sunday. Stay safe out there, and I will talk to you guys soon. And again, after the fact, if you're watching this after, of course, if you've got to this point, it doesn't matter anyway, but I apologize for the hiccup if the audio is off in the last half of the stream, but time will tell. All right, that's going to do it for me. In the meantime and in between time, my name is Dave McRae. I will talk to you guys soon. Cheers.